I'm sure you've all seen that Safaricom has received some backlash on the Decode event, and it made me think of a conversation I was having with my very good friend, Claire, an ML engineer. And most of these AI summits or AI events, most of them are usually businesses promoting their AI products, when the expectation is that the audience wants to learn how best can I leverage AI in my industry, in my businesses, what use cases would AI make sense in. And I strongly think these summits should be led by technical folk. These AI engineers, ML engineers, how let them be at the stage telling us how best we can leverage on AI to support whichever gaps we're having, and let them teach us. So I'm really against having business folk lead this session. So let's start. If you're thinking of starting an AI summit, please, if you're a technical person, start an AI summit and teach us. Let us learn from you guys. So yeah, let me know what you think.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're jumping straight into something that caused quite a stir in Kenya's tech community, the Safaricom Decode event. It was billed, well, maybe implicitly, as a big moment for AI enthusiasts, but it seems it landed with a bit of a thud for them.
Yeah, that's right. It definitely generated discussion, maybe not the kind they hoped for. We're going to dig into an analysis by Samuel Kariuki, who's an AI digital creator. He wrote a really insightful piece about why this event, which had a lot of anticipation around it, didn't quite hit the mark for people deep in the AI field.
Okay, so our mission here is to unpack those reasons. What was the disconnect? And maybe what does it signal about how big companies in Kenya are currently understanding and presenting AI?
Exactly, and Samuel's analysis is key here. He really contrasts the expectations versus the reality of what was delivered at Decode.
And just for context, Safaricom is, it's huge in Kenya, right? Tech, telecoms. So an event like Decode, you expect it to be significant, especially when it seems positioned to showcase cutting-edge stuff like AI.
Absolutely. There was a definite buzz. People were hoping Decode would offer a real look inside Safaricom's AI work, maybe even show Kenya stepping up as an AI hub in Africa.
So the big question we're tackling, why did an event with so much potential, leave the AI folks feeling disappointed? And what are the sort of wider ripples from that? Okay,
let's get into it. The first major point, and it seems pretty fundamental, is this gap. A big gap between the technical depth the AI community wanted and what they actually got.
Right. What were they actually hoping for? Like specifics.
They wanted the nitty-gritty, a proper exploration of AI within Safaricom. Talk about machine learning models they might be using, maybe specific case studies. How are they actually using data with AI for optimization or customer service beyond just the surface level? They were looking for open technical talks, maybe even with the engineers doing the work.
Yeah, the how, not just the what. They wanted to see under the hood, understand the processes, the data pipelines.
Precisely. That was the hope, substantive discussions. But the reality, according to Samuel's analysis, was very different. He described it as being dominated by buzzwords, generic statements, and corporate slogans.
Ouch. So lots of broad claims, but not much backing it up. Like, we're doing AI without showing the evidence.
Exactly. The presentations apparently didn't really delve into the how beyond maybe some superficial automation examples or chatbots. And the consequence, Samuel suggests it created a kind of trust gap between Safaricom and the AI community there.
Interesting. Okay, so lack of technical depth was one thing, but then there's the focus of the event itself. It seems AI might not have been the main event, despite the marketing.
That's another really crucial point Samuel makes. The promotion, the hashtags, the materials, they definitely suggested AI was a central theme.
But the actual content leaned elsewhere.
It seems so. More time was apparently spent on, broader corporate strategy, leadership philosophy, general digital transformation talk. Important stuff, maybe, but not the AI deep dive people expected.
So for the AI enthusiasts, the core stuff they came for was missing.
Right. Samuel lists things they were likely hoping for but didn't find. Things like code walkthroughs, or even just demos of AI apps or APIs developers could potentially use. Discussions about research partnerships didn't seem to be there either. or importantly, talks about ethical AI considerations and regulations specifically in the Kenyan context.
Stuff that signals a serious, deep engagement with AI, not just like a nod to its importance.
Exactly. The takeaway really was that AI felt more like a marketing angle, a buzzword to pull people in, rather than the core substance of the event.
Okay, so lack of depth, maybe a misplaced focus. What else? You mentioned the community earlier. Was the local AI talent involved?
Well, this is another point that really jumps out from Samuel's analysis. Kenya has a growing AI talent pool, right? There are freelancers, students doing amazing work, startups, researchers.
Yeah, there's definitely energy there.
Absolutely. But according to Samuel, these local AI developers, the people actually building things in Kenya, were really featured prominently at Decode. They weren't key speakers on panels. Their work wasn't showcased in a major way.
That feels like a missed opportunity, doesn't it?
A huge one. Samuel points this out clearly. Decode could have been a platform to show how Kenyan engineers are using AI to tackle local problems. Think about climate monitoring specific to the region, or urban traffic optimization in Nairobi, predicting agricultural yields, even developing AI for local languages.
Yeah, those are tangible, impactful applications. Showcasing that work would have been powerful.
Incredibly powerful and relevant. By not giving those local innovators a spotlight, Safaricom missed a chance to connect its own considerable resources, its data, capital, infrastructure, with that grassroots energy. It failed to bridge that gap, really.
And this lack of featuring local developers, does it suggest something about Safaricom's overall approach to innovation?
Samuel suggests it points towards maybe a more top-down model. I mean, Safaricom clearly has the resources, as we said, the data, the money, the infrastructure.
Yeah.
They could be a massive force in AI.
No question about that potential.
But the way Decode came across, based on his observations, suggested that innovation decisions are maybe happening mainly in the boardrooms, and only the polished, finished ideas get presented publicly. It's a very controlled flow of information.
Okay, but hang on. Isn't some control necessary? Especially with AI, you need responsible development, right?
That's true. Responsible AI is critical. But AI development itself, the actual process, often thrives in environments that are more open, more iterative, experimental. You need space to try things, maybe fail, learn, adjust. Think about open source communities, collaborative research.
Right. It's not always a neat, linear process decided from the top.
Exactly. And Samuel noted a lack of obvious ways for that kind of engagement at Decode. No clear channels for dialogue, for feedback from the community, for collaborative experimentation. Where were the, say, AI-focused hackathons or open challenges or even APIs for developers to tinker with? That absence reinforces the perception of a closed, top-down approach.
Which then ties into the idea of leadership, or maybe the lack of demonstrated leadership in the AI space.
Precisely. Given Safaricom's position, Decode could have been a moment to really assert leadership in African AI. They could have done that by being open about the challenges they face implementing AI, maybe sharing research directions, announcing education initiatives to build local skills.
But the message that came across was different.
Samuel sums it up as something like a vague assurance, kind of a, we're doing something with AI, trust us.
Yeah.
And as he points out, in the tech world, especially with something like AI, trust isn't just given, it's earned through openness, through showing your work.
Through tangible demonstrations, not just promises.
Exactly. So without that demonstrable leadership, that openness, the event apparently lacked that spark. That inspiration you get when you see a major player really engaging transparently with a challenging field. It felt, perhaps, more like ticking a box than leading the charge.
And this all happens against the backdrop of a changing community, right? The audience for this stuff isn't passive anymore.
That's a really critical piece of context. Samuel argues forcefully that the Kenyan tech community, especially those interested in AI, is much more sophisticated now than even a few years ago. Vague talk about AI might have passed muster before, but not anymore.
How so? What's changed?
Well, they're deeply engaged. They're participating in global conferences, often virtually. They're using online platforms like Coursera, ALX, Fast.ai for serious training. They're not just reading about AI, they're building with it, using tools like GPTs, TensorFlow, Hugging Face. They're following open source developments closely.
So it's a hands-on, knowledgeable community. They know what good AI work looks like because they're trying to do it themselves.
Exactly. They're building tools, experimenting, learning constantly. And that means their expectations for an event like Decode are just higher. They're past the point of being impressed by superficial mentions of AI. They want depth, they want transparency, they want opportunities for real collaboration.
And Decode, it sounds like, just didn't meet that level. It didn't match the sophistication the community has reached.
That seems to be the core message from Samuel's analysis. The event fundamentally misjudged, or perhaps didn't cater to, the current level of understanding and expectation within the Kenyan AI community.
So summing up Samuel's view, Decode worked okay as a corporate event, maybe for investors or partners interested in Safaricom's general direction. But for the AI enthusiasts, the developers, the researchers, it fell flat because it lacked technical depth and real engagement.
Yes, it highlighted this difference between saying you're doing AI and actually showing it, engaging with the people who do it. It came across as somewhat superficial to that specific audience.
Now, Samuel didn't just criticize, did he? He offered some suggestions for Safaricom if they want to be seen as a serious AI player.
He did. He provided some clear, actionable recommendations. He suggests Safaricom needs to, well, host real AI hackathons, proper technical challenges. He also talks about opening up some of their data sets ethically, of course, to spur innovation.
That's a big one. Access to data is huge for AI development.
Absolutely. He also stressed collaborating properly with universities and the existing AI communities in Kenya, creating meaningful mentorship and internship programs, and even potentially funding open source African AI projects. Tangible things that show a real commitment to building the ecosystem, not just benefiting from it.
Right. Steps that foster partnership and build trust.
Exactly. Actions that demonstrate they're serious about AI leadership, not just AI marketing.
Okay, so wrapping this up, our deep dive today, looking through the lens of Samuel Kariuki's analysis, really highlights this significant gap, a gap between how a major corporation like Safaricom talked about AI at Decode and what the increasingly savvy AI community in Kenya actually expects and needs.
Yeah, the event seemed to prioritize the high-level corporate message over the technical substance and genuine community engagement that AI practitioners were looking for.
And it looks like a missed chance, really, a missed chance to feature brilliant local talent, to foster a more open approach to innovation, and for Safaricom to truly position itself as a leader in African AI.
It really underscores, for anyone watching this space, the importance of substance over just hype, especially in a field moving as fast as artificial intelligence.
It definitely raises questions, doesn't it? For you, the listener, think about how large organizations can genuinely connect with and nurture the tech talent in their own backyards.
And as the Kenyan tech scene matures, as its AI community gets even more sophisticated, how do companies like Safaricom need to change their approach? What does real AI leadership look like? Is it closed doors and polished presentations? Or is it about opening up, sharing challenges, and truly empowering the people who are building the future? Something to think about.
Indeed. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.